The Oregon Trail is about 2,170 miles long, and it took more than 4 months to travel from Independence, Missouri to Oregon City, Oregon. Parts of the trails were as big as 20 miles wide, but in other parts it was barely big enough for the wagons to get through. However, as you can see on the maps, there wasn't a clearly defined trail. Some pioneers veered off the trail and went their own way in order to avoid certain obstacles. Usually the pioneers often followed the route that was most traveled on and had the biggest ruts because they marked the best path. These ruts got so deep that they sometimes went up to the middle of the tires. However, the most dangerous part of the journey was river crossing. This often took 5 days if you had a wagon, and many of the wagons tipped over, which caused the pioneers to lose their supplies, valuables, and sometimes even their lives. The Oregon Trail was the best land route for travel to the western United States. Many people took this journey in search of gold, free land, or because they were searching for a better life. The pioneers usually used cover wagons, also known as prairie schooners, like this one, as a way of travel. The wagons often had a wooden base and wooden wheels. The front wheels were smaller than the back ones because this made it easier to turn quickly. Attaching to the wooden base and going upwards were pieces of curved wood, which were used to hold up the white canvas that served as a roof on the wagon. The ends of the canvas had drawstrings to close and open the doors in an effort to keep dust out and to serve as protection against bad weather. Also, to make the wagon waterproof, they greased the white canvas and put tar under their wagons. More often than not, you would see oxen pulling the wagons instead of horses. The reason for this is because oxen are stronger, need less water, are less expensive, aren't easily spooked, can eat prairie grass, and are less likely to be stolen. Although there are a lot of wagons on the trail, some people chose to walk it. You may think that seems crazy, but the wagons tended to be overcrowded and they are really bumpy and unpleasant to ride in. However, most pioneers didn't have very good shoes, and their shoes ended up falling apart and getting a lot of holes. This caused their feet to become very sore, and more often than not, their feet would start to bleed. Gross! On the trail, there are 3 main problems: diseases, weather, and the rough terrain. There were 10,000 deaths along the Oregon Trail, and only 4% were from Indian attacks. Graves were frequently built right on the side of the trail for everyone to see. Food, water, and wood were often scarce, and the pioneers came upon many contaminated water holes. Because of the water contaminations, there weren't many places to bathe, which caused diseases to spread very fast. One of the diseases that took the lives of many within just a few hours was cholera. Cholera is a diarrhea illness that causes infections of the intestines that was spread by contaminated water and food. Some of the symptoms of cholera are watery diarrhea, vomiting, and leg cramps. Found near Rock Creek Township was a rock with the name S.M. Marshall etched into it. This man was overcome with cholera while on his way to California with his family. But unlike others, he was fortunate enough to have been able to make his own gravestone and request a burial spot. The most common disease was head and body lice. This was spread because the pioneers weren't able to clean themselves due to the lack of clean water along the trail. Little 6-legged bugs, as shown in the picture, that feed on blood and infest the hairy parts of the body and clothing are what cause the scalp to itch. These little bugs can live up to 20 days, but need warm temperature in order to lay their eggs. Another disease common on the trail is malaria. If a malaria-infected mosquito were to bite you, the disease would travel through your body and to your liver, where malaria cells can grow rapidly. Many pioneers that had this disease often experienced chills, sweats, fevers, and a lot of abdominal pain. The final disease on the trail was scurvy. This disease was caused by an insufficient intake of vitamin C. The pioneers didn't have a lot of opportunities to eat fresh fruits and veggies, which led them to this disease. To me, scurvy probably had the most disturbing side effects, such as bleeding of the gums, swelling everywhere, loosened teeth, and bleeding from the eyes. Men on the trail wore long-sleeved flannel shirts with woolen undershirts and either wool or cotton trousers. They wore these because they gave protection from the sun, rain, and sudden temperature changes. However, the women wore skirts or dresses made of calico with many different colors and floral prints. Hats or bonnets were also worn as protection from the sun. On the dusty or cold days, many of the pioneers wore bandana handkerchiefs over their mouths. How long the journey took was influenced by the weather. The pioneers faced thunderstorms, snow, wind, hail, sometimes the size of apples, and drought. All of these could be very damaging to the canvas of the wagons and to the pioneers. Many pioneers lacked basic skills and didn't even know how to drive a wagon and ended up facing broken bones, serious injuries, or death. This also caused the wagons to bunch up and major delays for everyone stuck in it. Many people today get the idea that the Oregon Trail was a long, boring trail with absolutely nothing along it. However, families brought many different objects along to keep themselves entertained. There are different landmarks along the trail that people could stop and see, and there are quite a few different forts to stop at. The families may have started with many items, but the majority of them didn't make it through the entire journey and ended up being tossed out along the side of the trail. The items that did survive were luxury items. Some of the stuff that they would have brought along were Bibles, guns, milk cans, spoons, bonnets, jackets, dolls, family treasures, some food, and tools if they had room. With the few items that they did bring, they were able to make up some pretty fun games to play. A few of the most common landmarks are Chimney Rock, Courthouse Rock, the South Pass Trail, Independence Rock, and the Blue Mountains. Chimney Rock, made of sandstone and clay, was the most spectacular landmark on the trail and was found in western Nebraska. Courthouse Rock, also known as Jailhouse Rock, is 400 feet high and found south of Bridgeport, Nebraska. Many pioneers stopped and wrote their names with little stories on this rock, which can still be visible today. South Pass Trail was founded by Robert Stewart and was the main pass through the mountains. Independence Rock was discovered by William Sublette in 1830. This is the halfway point of the journey and is found near Casper, Wyoming. The Blue Mountains were the most direct route, but they also had an extremely rough terrain. Fort Kearny, Fort Laramie, Fort Bridger, Fort Hall, and Fort Boyce were 5 of the main forts along the Oregon Trail. Pioneers could camp overnight and trade many things such as food, supplies, and furs. These forts were very helpful to the pioneers along their journey and allowed them to gather new materials whenever they were running short. The only downfall was that if they were running short on food, they had to limit themselves until they were able to get to a fort, which could have taken a while. The Oregon Trail was the longest overland route used and was first traced by explorers and fur traders but wasn't used by settlers until 1841. From 1841 to 1866, an estimated 250,000 to 650,000 made the trip along the Oregon Trail. 1/3 of the people went to Oregon, another third went to California, and the final third went to either Utah, Colorado, or Montana.